A buyer sent me a spreadsheet once with his anchor text targets already filled in. Branded 50%, naked URL 20, partial match 15, generic 10, exact match 5. The numbers added up to 100. That was the only thing about them I could verify. I asked where the split came from. He said it was the standard. I asked whose standard, and he sent me a blog post, and the blog post cited nothing at all. I buy placements and I sell them. 14 people have asked to buy a link of me, and 2 of them actually paid. So I see the anchor field from the site almost nobody writes about. The site where somebody types the phrase they want, and there are 2 things here that get sold as one thing. One of them is real. The other is folklore wearing a lab coat. The numbers have no source. Pick any anchor ratio guide and try to trace where the percentages came from. You will not get there. You get a blog post, citing a blog post, citing a slide deck from an agency that no longer exists. The trail goes cold every single time, usually somewhere around 2014, and the numbers disagree with each other. I've seen exact match capped at 1% and I have seen it capped at 10, both stated flatly, both in the same confident tone, neither with anything behind it. If 2 sources give you a tenfold difference on the same quantity, and neither can tell you how they measured it, you are looking at the convention that got repeated until it started sounding like a finding. Nobody publishes the sample. Nobody says how many domains they looked at, or how they decided an anchor counted as partial match rather than generic, which is a judgment call that would move every number in the table. The categories are mush anyway. There is a smaller problem sitting underneath the percentages, and it is the one that finished the argument for me. The buckets are not well defined. My own site is called the SEO desk. A link that says the SEO desk is branded. A link that says SEO desk is branded. A link that says SEO is exact match. The gap between the second and the third is 1 word out of 3. Anybody selling proxies or hosting or VPNs has it worse, because the brand contains the category. A link carrying your product name is branded and commercial at the same time, and which column it lands in depends entirely on who is doing the sorting. 2 tools will classify the same profile differently. I have watched that happen on 1 domain inside the same week. So before anyone argues about whether exact match belongs at 5% or 8%, somebody has to agree what exact match means. Nobody has. So that is the folklore part. Now the awkward bit, which is that the thing underneath it is real. What is actually true? Links that people write on their own initiative do not agree on wording. Think about how it actually happens. Someone mentions your site in a forum reply and writes here. Someone else pastes the bare domain because they copied it out of the address bar. Someone writes your company name and spells it wrong. Someone links the words "this article" because that is how their sentence ran. 50 people writing independently produce 50 phrasings, and most of them are useless as keywords because not one of those people was thinking about your keywords. So a profile where a large share of the links carry the same commercial phrase had a hand behind it. You can see that without statistics, it is the same as noticing that 40 letters arrived in the same handwriting. That part I believe. I believe it because I can see the mechanism from where I sit, not because a percentage told me so. Why it never becomes a number. Here is where the whole thing falls over. A signal can be obvious at the extremes and completely meaningless in the middle. This one is exactly that shape. 0 links out of 100 using your money phrase. Fine. 80 out of 100 using it word for word. Obviously constructed. Between those posts there is no line, and every guide in this industry is a confident announcement of precisely where the line sits. They cannot even agree on which side of a given number you are supposed to be standing. Then there is the problem nobody in this conversation ever raises. Most people counting these ratios do not have enough links for a percentage to mean anything. If your profile has 40 links, 1 more placement moves your exact match share by 2.5 points. Your dashboard shows a trend. What actually happened is you bought 1 link. A percentage on a small sample is noise with a decimal point on the end. The shaping problem, say you take the target seriously, and you manage to them. You have optimized the number. You have not touched the thing the number was standing in for. It was standing in for whether a human chose the wording or you did. And you cannot fix that by choosing more varied wording, because you are still the one choosing. There is a nastier version of this. A profile deliberately engineered to land on 50, 20, 15, 10 and 5 is itself a pattern. Real profiles are lumpy and ugly. One site links you 4 times in a month with the identical phrase because that is what their template does. A forum thread hands you 9 links that all say here. A directory gives you your company name in title case because the field was labeled company name. Nobody's honest backlink profile looks like a clean pie chart. So if yours does, you have built a second artifact while trying to hide the first one. I am not claiming anyone detects that. I am saying if you believe uniformity is a signal, you should be at least as suspicious of manufactured variety, and the people selling ratio management never are. The mechanism nobody says out loud. Here is the actual reason bot links cluster, and it has nothing to do with percentages. When you buy a placement, you choose the anchor. The seller sends you a form or an email asking what you want it to say. You type the phrase you want to rank for, because that is what you think you are paying for. And typing anything else would feel like throwing money away. When you earn a link, somebody else chooses. They choose badly from your point of view. They choose whatever fits their sentence. So what separates a bot profile from an earned one is authorship. One of them was written by a single hand and the other was written by dozens. Every anchor you personally specified has your intent sitting inside it. That is the fingerprint. A percentage is one crude way of looking at that fingerprint, and not a very good one. What I see from the sell side, I went through what buyers actually asked for in another piece and I will not repeat all of it. One detail belongs here though. The buyer who paid asked me to change his anchor. Not to a keyword. His company had rebranded. My article still carried the old product name, and he wanted the current one. That request had nothing to do with ratios. He was managing where his brand name appears on pages his customers already read. It is the healthiest anchor request I have ever received, and it came from somebody who was not thinking about anchor text as a category at all. The rest leaned toward the money phrase. Some sent the phrase and nothing else. 4 words in an email and a URL to hang them on. That is the request pattern. I fill it because they are paying and it is their call. What actually matters? Does the link make sense in the sentence it sits in? That is the whole test. It is annoying because you cannot put it on a dashboard. Read the sentence aloud with the link taken out. If it still tells a reader something they needed, the anchor is fine whatever words it uses. If the sentence exists in order to hold the link, everybody can tell, and no ratio saves it. I have pulled paid insertions out of my own articles for exactly that reason. The anchor was not the problem. The sentence around it was obviously bolted on, and it made the page read like rented shelf space. A sentence written to carry a link is visible to a human editor in about 2 seconds. That matters more than the algorithm question, because a human editor is who actually removes it. What to do when you are buying? Give the seller the destination URL and one line about what the page is. Then let them write the sentence. You will get worse keywords and better placements. Vary because the pages are different, not because a spreadsheet told you to. Your home page gets your brand, because that is what a person would call it. A deep page about pricing gets whatever that page is about. Do not buy 10 placements in a fortnight with the same phrase from 10 different sellers. Timing is the other half of the pattern, and it is the half people forget. If a placement only works with an anchor that makes the sentence read badly, buy a different placement, and stop asking for your hardest commercial term on a paid link in the first month of a site's life. A site with 9 links total, 4 of which say the same 3 words, is doing something no real site has ever done. My position, which people will hate. If you are counting your anchors to 2 decimal places, you have found a way to feel productive without doing anything. Ratio management is enormously satisfying. There is a spreadsheet, there are targets, there is a number that moves when you act. It has every texture of work except the outcome. The variables that move something are which sites you are on, and whether your paragraph reads like it belongs there. Neither of those fits in a pie chart, and neither moves in a week. I ran an anchor spreadsheet of my own for about a year. Kept it properly, color-coded it, adjusted what I bought to keep the exact match column inside a range I had read somewhere. I cannot point at one thing that changed because of it. The limit. I cannot prove any of this, and I should say so plainly rather than bury it. I have never run the test that would settle it. Nobody has, as far as I can tell, because you would need two near identical sites on the same timeline and the willingness to deliberately over-optimize one of them and watch it burn. Nobody with real money on a site is doing that. What I have is the sell-side view, a set of ledgers, and the fact that every percentage ever quoted at me evaporates the second you ask where it came from. That is enough to stop me managing to a ratio. It is not enough to tell you the ratio does not matter. Anybody stating either version with certainty is doing the same thing the spreadsheet people are doing, just pointed the other way. My own domain vets at 48% spam on a vendor tool while it sits indexed and keeps selling placements. So whatever I think looks unnatural and whatever that tool thinks looks unnatural are already two different things. Adding a third opinion with a decimal point on it does not obviously help. What I check before money moves, and the exact wording I put in the email, is at thisodesk.com. Subscribe for more on link building.